Welcome, my friends. It's our daily scrum. For those of you that haven't joined our daily scrums, you can do so at hpmexam.com. Jump on the Immersion program and you begin to get invites to them. So today, as usual, we're taking a look at a quiz, and I call this PMP exam micro quizzes. I also call them genetically enhanced questions. The language might sound predictive in a lot of instances, and the answer might be something else. So let's take a look at the very first one. Our friends here have already gone through them, so we're going to launch the poll and go ahead and tell me what you chose for the very first question. All right, thank you very much. We'll go ahead and end the poll and let's review what the answer is. But let's first of all take a look at the question. So it says, an issue affecting the schedule is identified during a project that was not anticipated during planning. How should the project manager respond? So let's use process of elimination first of all. Brainstorm ideas with the project team to mitigate the risk. I thought it said issue. So that cannot be the answer. Right off the bat, we got to eliminate it. It said brainstorm ideas with the project team to mitigate the risk. No, it said an issue. This is one of the cheapest tricks in the book of the sleazy question writers. They mention issue and then they give you a risk solution, or they mention risk and they give you an issue solution. So beware of that. B, communicate this to subject matter experts and project stakeholders. What good does that do? It does not move things forward, so no. C says, request extra funding from the sponsor to address this risk. Again, trick. See that? It's not a risk. It is an issue. And then the final thing says, perform data analysis and follow recommended change procedures. Well, that's the only one that really makes sense. All the others are wrong. So the best answer is D. All right. Any comments about that one? All right, let's move on. You can ask the questions at the end. So just note anyone that tripped you up. All right, let's go to our next one. A stakeholder believes that a recent increment is not complete or compliant with expectations. What should the project manager do next? Let's go ahead and relaunch the poll. All right, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and let's stop. End the poll. Share the results. Very polarized. All right, so let's examine. First of all, it says a stakeholder, right? So this is someone who we should take notice of, but what should we do if a recent increment is not compliant? Note, it did not say if a requirement, right? It said an entire increment. The entire increment is not complete. How do we know that an increment is complete? Let's take a look at the options. A, analyze this stakeholders' needs and expectations against the product roadmap. Well, we already know that we don't analyze things against a roadmap per se. The roadmap is so high level that that may not make sense. Now, you could argue and say, but expectations could also be part of what is in the roadmap. That's true, but this is talking about an increment specifically, right? So we're going to get rid of A. Remember, the roadmap will contain several different releases or increments. All right, let's take a look at option D, right at the bottom. Obtain the stakeholders' agreement upon reviewing story acceptance criteria. Well, story acceptance criteria has to do more with the individual user stories, not the entire increment. This is the entire potentially shippable increment that contains, of course, many different stories that have probably been worked on it, right? So there's a difference between story criteria and definition of done, which relates to the entire increment. So it's not D. And finally, C says, review the product vision, definition of ready, project charter with stakeholder. Definition of ready has nothing to do with this stakeholders not being happy with the increment or not being compliant. Definition of ready means ready to work on a story, independent, negotiable, valuable, estimable, small enough to fit within a sprint and testable. So it's not that. The best answer is examine the definition of done as defined in the team charter. In your examining the definition of done, you'll be able to balance up what the stakeholder believes and the definition of done. Everything else will not help. Okay. All right, let's move on. And do take note, if you got any questions, let me know at the end. Here's the next one we did. And I'll read it and launch the poll. A project risk budget was approved that only considered high impact, high potential risks. During project execution, a risk with high impact but very low potential occurs. While it is in the risk register, it is not in the budget. What should the project manager do first? All right. Let's end the poll. And let's share the results. So you might remember this from yesterday. Those of you who were here yesterday probably experienced this one. So let's take a look at the language. Risk budget was approved. That means a budget put aside to deal with risks that we have identified. Okay. Now, if that risk budget has been approved for risks of a certain nature, we cannot go against that strategy. All right. So let's take a look at D. Escalate the problem to the sponsor. Well, this shouldn't be escalated because it is within the jurisdiction of your project. So it's not D. Let's take a look at B. Immediately execute the risk response plan using the available risk budget. It just said it is not in the budget. So it cannot be B. Taking a look at option C, conduct an impact analysis. That's not a bad thing. And then submit a change request. But let's back up. Why do we need to do an impact analysis when it says high impact, high potential risks? That's in the risk budget. And it says a risk with high impact, but very low potential. The impact analysis has already been done. We don't need to do it again. So this is redundant. Also, it's asking to increase the budget. It's like banging your head on a brick wall when you've already been told no, right? So the best answer is A, update the risk management plan based on risk monitoring and assessment. Now, I know it may seem, but how does updating a risk management plan do anything to the risk itself? Well, based on monitoring and assessment, it could be that the risk plan changes. That is your best bet. Everything else has already been done or is redundant, okay? I know it's a bit of a tricky one. This question was not changed at all. This is exactly how the PMI gave it. All right, let's move on. Food company. I'll go ahead and launch the poll again. A food company receives customer complaints that the larger a product is, the less chips are in the bag. What tool or technique can the project manager use to determine reason for this? All right, thank you very much. Let's go ahead and end the poll and share the results. All right, so what is happening here is we have a situation where there's a relationship between a large product and less items in the bag. Now, the control chart will tell you if a process is stable, but it will not tell you the reason for instability. So it's not the control chart. That just shows you the process is unstable, but it doesn't tell you why it is unstable. Scatter diagrams do show a relationship between a product being large and less chips. Remember what the scatter diagram looks like? So you plot on the X and Y axes, and by the time you plot, you can see, oh, there's a relationship there, or maybe it's one of these that has a direct relationship, and you can see, oh, there's a relationship, right? So that's a scatter diagram. That's how we know there's a relationship, right? But as far as why there's a relationship, scatter diagram doesn't do that for you. Affinity diagram is just used to group ideas. So an affinity diagram could group reasons for something happening, but as far as the actual reason, affinity diagram cannot do that for you. So affinity diagrams, for example, if you're trying to group what you found as reasons, and you're saying the reason for this is people, the reason for this is machines, the reason for this is process. Yeah, that's an affinity diagram. But the reasons themselves, an affinity diagram can't find that for you. What can is a YY diagram. YY diagrams, also known as Ishikawa, fishbone, cause and effect. Same thing. That's your best bet for this one. Okay. All right, let's move on to our next question. A project manager submits a project review report showing that the project has completed 7% of its activities, has a schedule variance of 25 to 50, and a cost performance index of 2.5. What can the project manager do next to successfully complete the project? Let's go ahead and let's launch. And what do you think? All right. Come on now. What did you folks choose? Hello. Are you thinking it? You know, there's this funny thing that happens when Phil reads the question, it suddenly sounds different, huh? All right, I'll give you a few more seconds. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Come on now, where's everyone? Is anyone home? All right, thank you very much. Let's end the poll. And let's take a look at the results. So, very simple. When you have a schedule variance that is positive, that means you are ahead of schedule. If it had said minus 25K 250, we know we're in trouble, but it has a positive number. That's good. So we are ahead of schedule. No action is needed to crash or fast track. So we're going to eliminate option B. Option B's got to go. All right. Let's take a look at option A. Develop a bottom-up estimate for the remaining work to increase cost efficiency. Now let's take a look at the cost efficiency, the cost performance index. It's a 2.5. That means you are 2.5 times better than what you were expected to be. In other words, you were expected to get $1 worth of work for $1, but you got $2.50 worth of work for $1. How more efficient do you need to be? So the answer is not A. This part about increasing cost efficiency, you don't need to do that. You're already too efficient. You see that? All right, let's take a look at option C. Identify parallel activities to reduce the critical path and get the project back on track. You do not need to do anything to the critical path. You are ahead of schedule. So it's not C. Which leaves one option. Let's read it. Ensure no charges are hidden other company projects. That makes absolute sense. Why? Because if you are charging to other company projects, the costs aren't hidden and the ratio of earned value to actual cost seems abnormally high. This is actually a question from my real world when I worked at Honeywell. Now, while the CPI wasn't crazy like 2.5, it was much higher than it needed to be. But the problem was people were charging to a different cost center. The moment we reversed that and the cost hit the right cost center, everything was normalized. All right, so the best answer, my friends, is D. Everything else is unnecessary. We're already good in cost, no need for cost efficiency, no need for schedule variance to be managed. We don't need to reduce the schedule variance, right? Crashing or fast tracking is only going to make you more ahead of schedule. You're already ahead of schedule. All right, that's the end of that one. And do note your questions so I can answer them effectively at the end if they are questions. Let's go to the next one. During project initiation for a compliance project, the project manager performed a cost-benefit analysis that resulted in 1.25. What should the project manager do next? Let's go ahead, launch the poll. And you do remember what a cost-benefit analysis is? Hopefully. All right. Go ahead, tell me what you chose. Thank you very much. Welcome, welcome, Chandra. I see you there. Okay, go ahead. All right, let's go ahead and end the poll because everyone has spent time in advance answering, right? So we're going quick here. Come on now. Come on now. Where's the missing lady or the missing man? All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's go ahead and end the poll and share our results. So taking a look at what we have here, it says A, review the poor results with the project sponsor to confirm the project's viability and feasibility. Now, that's suspicious. Why? Because a cost-benefit analysis is this. It is the ratio of benefits or revenue, ratio of benefits or revenue, ratio of benefits or revenue divided by cost. That's really what it is. So think about it. If you got $1.25, or let's say 1.25 million, let's make it more dramatic. Let's say you got $1.25 million of revenue from an endeavor, and you only spent $1 million to deliver the solution for the project. The question is this good or bad? You spend $1 million to run the project and you got 1.25 million revenue. It means you made yourself 0.25 million. That's what it means. That's your profit, right? Now, while we were not given these explicit numbers, because it could be anything, it could be 1.25 billion, right? So it could be anything, but the ratio shows the benefits outweigh the cost. So it's not a poor result. So the answer is not A. It's not a poor result. This is what we would consider feasible or viable, okay? Depending on other things, but on face value, it's not poor. All right, let's take a look at B. Examine reports to determine if the project should start or be rejected. Face value, that's your report right there in the question. There's no need for any additional reporting. So it's not B. Let's take a look at option C. Consult with stakeholders about project approval. Think about it. This is a project that will result in a profit. Why do you need to go ahead and consult further? It says during project initiation for a compliance project, you have to do it. It's a compliance project. See? So this one, this statement right here will eliminate this one. And in terms of sensibilities, a compliance project that will result in benefits, you got to proceed to plan and execute the project work, even if that number was still not the best of numbers. Compliance, you got to be careful with words like that. So on two fronts, it eliminated everything else. All right, let's move on to our next question. While executing a project that is nearly behind schedule, a project manager must commission a new piece of equipment. A local party who will be impacted by this asks the project to be stopped because they were not given an opportunity to provide project approval. What should the project manager do next? Let's go ahead and launch the poll. choose an option. All right. Let's go ahead. 3, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll. All right. And it seems everyone chose the same answer, but is that the right answer? Let's read. So, while executing a project that is nearly behind schedule, project manager must commission a new piece of equipment. Local party who will be impacted by this asks that the project be stopped. Okay. So let's look at A. Refer to the stakeholder engagement plan. This is not about stakeholder engagement. This is about someone who is not happy and they feel they were not given the opportunity to provide project approval. So referring to stakeholder engagement plan is premature at this stage. It's something you should have done. B, obtain sign-off and approval of the project charter. Again, something that you should have done. So it's not that. That should have already been done. It didn't say, what should the project manager have done to prevent this? It said, what should project manager do next? Let's take a look at option C. Apply concepts of collaboration, transparency, and openness. That sounds very agile-ish, but even in the world of predictive, you can't go wrong with that, can you? Let's take a look at D. Use conflict management techniques. Is this really conflict? No, it's not. This isn't conflict. This is really you needing to put on your collaboration hat. This is you thinking customer collaboration over contract negotiation. And it's about our highest priorities to satisfy the customer. So the best option is actually C, right? It's not conflict. It's just good old project management. So well done. Got that one right. Let's move on. Next question. A project manager leads a complex project with stakeholders located in several countries. The project manager learns that a senior manager asks a team member for confidential information. What should the project manager do next? What did you choose? All right, just go ahead. Don't second guess yourself. Don't second guess yourself. Don't second guess yourself. All right. Come on now. Don't stop at the ledge. Jump off. Grow your wings on the way down, my friends. All right, 3, 2, and 1. Let's end the poll and share the results. A little bit polarized, but let's read. A project manager leads a complex project with stakeholders located in several countries. Project manager learns senior. So a senior manager asks a team member for confidential information. Let's examine what should have happened. So D, refer to the stakeholder register for communication flow channels. They're not in the stakeholder register to begin with. So this is not going to help you in the regard of communication flow channels. The fact that it's specifically mentioned in something that is in the communications management plan is going to kill that option straight away. So beware of options on the exam where it says do one thing to get something that is not in that document. No, it's not D. All right, let's take a look at C. Coach the team member in private, not to share classified information. Okay, let's put a question mark next to that. Let's take a look at option B. Review plans to deduce if the manager is privy to the information. So this statement, review plans, is very high level, but that means it could actually mean a communication plan. So let's hold on to that and take a look at A. Review the project management information system. Well, that doesn't make sense. That's just a system with all of the information across the project, so that will not help. So the thing that will really move this forward is you checking to see if this manager is privy to the information. Let's read the question again. It's a very sleazy question. A project manager leads a complex project with stakeholders located in several countries. The project manager learns that a senior manager asked a team member for confidential information. Now, what if that manager is privy to it? Did the team member give the information yet? Nothing in this question alludes to that. So this person saying needs coaching is presumptuous. It's presumptuous because you're assuming that they did share the information. It just says a senior manager asked a team member. It didn't say the team member actually did it. And even if they did it, what if they're privy to the information? You see? So actually the safest option is B. You got to review and see, oh, is this person privy to this information that they are requesting? Because you talk about confidential information. If someone is privy to it, they get it. It's that simple. So B would be the best thing to do, not to coach the poor person the poor person may not have even done a single thing. All right. So that's why I said it's a very tricky question. You got to be aware of those. All right. Let's move on to the next one. A project is being planned in a remote area with limited access to healthcare facilities. The Zika virus has recently ravaged the surrounding area. You got to love questions like this, just a big old story. Project manager proposes that the company proceed with sending its employees in briefly to complete project groundwork despite this development. The project manager has assigned you to scout out surrounding provinces for treatment centers in case anyone on the team falls sick. What type of risk response is the project manager demonstrating? Let's go ahead and relaunch. What did you choose? All right, this is classic PMP sleaze. 3, 2, and 1. Thank you very much for your votes. Let's go ahead and let's end the poll. I see Ben came in, so you're welcome. We're just having fun here. So if you take a look at the options, my friends, there's certain language. You got to be aware of this language whenever risk is being talked about. Anytime you've got a question that says, do X, Y, Z in case something happens. So you mean if nothing happens, I ain't doing nothing. I'm not going to do anything if nothing happens. All I've done so far is see, oh, where are their treatment centers? Oh, there's one there, there's one there. Okay, I know where the treatment centers are. Okay, let me go back to the company. I guess I won't do anything to proactively deal with this situation. If someone gets sick, if the risk happens, then we have a backup plan. That, my friends, is not transfer. This is not the transfer strategy. Do you see the train coming? This is not being proactive. It's not avoiding. And it's actually not mitigating either. Because you're not mitigating anything. You're not reducing the probability of the risk. Think about it. There's a possibility that someone could be sick. Okay. Are you doing anything about it? No. If they are sick, we will do this. That's accept. So you got to look out for these trickeries in the question that say, do this. And if the risk happens, then at least we know what we can do. That's reactive. It's like saying there's a risk that people could get sick from COVID. What should you do? A, look for a treatment center or get them the jab. Getting them the jab will be mitigate. Cordoning off the area where people are eating and saying, okay, put people in groups in which they came in, that's mitigate. But saying, if someone gets COVID, well, we'll send them to the hospital. That's accept. Okay. It's one of the trickeries of the exam. They do this a lot. All right, let's move on. One final question, and it reads, a $5 million healthcare project has been executed and you are the project manager. To date, the planned value is this, the actual cost is that, and the budgeted cost of work performed is this. So, it's one of those. What is the project's current status? So I think one of the answers is missing. So just bear with me. I'm going to fix that. The missing answer. All right. Well, you've probably guessed.
We can still get it.
Exactly. You've probably guessed, but let's go ahead and make it look right for our friends at home. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Here we go. All right, read it carefully, but I think Carice let the cat out of the bag. My additional one there will not make much of a difference. So it's probably a freebie for you folks. Excuse me. Talking so much makes me thirsty. All right. Everyone done? Let's go ahead and end it. 3, 2, and 1. Come on now. Who are the resistants? Come on now. Just choose an option. It doesn't hurt. Let's get used to choosing an option when it's uncomfortable. Come on now. All right, 3, 2, and 1. You don't need a calculator for it. You don't. You don't. All right. This is what we came up with. So let's examine. It's like saying this. Let me break it down like this. It's like saying, the work done is 690, all right? 690 worth of value, right? 690,000 value is the work done. And then the cost spent is 650,000 value. Let's talk about the crazy housing market. You got a house valued at 690,000 for 650,000. That cannot be a bad situation, right? Also, think about this. You planned by a certain milestone to get $630,000 value. Think about that. You planned by this milestone, we'll get $630,000 worth of house complete. Let's say you're building the house, right? And if you're gonna like say, okay, each piece of the house is worth a particular amount. Let's say you plan that by the third quarter, you'd get $630,000 of value in that building through maybe improvements or whatever you're doing. But when you got to that milestone, oh, we actually have $690,000 of value at that milestone. That's a good thing. You planned to get 630 by a milestone, you ended up getting 690. And then you spent 650, not even the value. You spent less money than the value of what you got. That's got to be a win on all fronts. So this is ahead of schedule and it's under budget. You got 690, you're ahead of the schedule. As far as the budget, You only spent $650, but you got a bigger value. That's under budget. So the best answer, my friends, as you've probably guessed, is B, ahead of schedule and under budget. All right. And with that, we have come to the end of our little adventure for today. This is what we do here in our daily scrums. For those of you who are still on the fence as far as joining the hpmexam.com movement, you need to do that because we keep engaged daily. We show up, we talk about impediments, our obstacles and our blockers. We talk about what we did yesterday, talk about what we're going to do today, and we also talk about our goals overall. All right, so if you haven't signed up, going down to the website, it's hpmexam.com. And like I said, it would be a pleasure to have you in one of our classes, www.hpmexam.com. All right, we're going to take a pause here and get questions from our friends.